If you're looking for a fantasy football tip to add to your draft strategy, you should think about drafting a running back in their prime years. It is when they score the most fantasy points before they have that dive off that cliff. I know when the prime years are. I know you're interested, so stick around for 7 seconds. A running back in their prime is great to know for redraft and dynasty football leagues. It's important to know when the running back you're drafting or chasing is set for a decline. I have information from the past 20 years on what ages running backs have their most productive season. The research is from ApexFantasyLeague.com with my tweaks added, but remember, age is just one factor. Volume and offensive line is a part of a running back's success too. I've done all my notes and I'll show them to you right now. I'm showing you an image of how many running backs have scored at least 230 points and at what age. On average, from the past decade, scoring 230 points placed RBs inside top 12. But 2024, running backs dominated the fantasy football world, and Joe Mixon had 240 points and was RB 17. David Montgomery was RB 18th with 221 points. In 2023, James Cook was 12th in points scored with 232 points, just to show the comparison to you guys. No running back has scored 230 points and ended outside RB12 in the last 10 years until 2024. I believe 2024 is likely an outlier year, so don't fall in that trap. This image shows prime years are 23 through 28 for normally top 12 running backs. Only 2 running backs have scored 230 plus PPR points in the last 3 seasons. Derrick Henry, who is likely an outlier running back, and Joe Mixon. Both running backs are top 5 in carries from the last 3 years. They had volume and health. Now this image is how many times running backs have scored at least 250 PPR points and at what age. This is considered elite scoring. Scoring 250 points in a season is normally top 7 for the past 10 years. But last season, it placed James Conner 11th with 253 points scored. Just another example of how running backs exploded last year and wide receivers were in the back seat. This hasn't happened in a decade. Running backs might be due for a regression. This data starts at 2010 because of how much the game has evolved since 2000. It shows how much younger the game has become. Running backs between 2000 and 2009 were 4 times more likely to hit elite scoring at age 29. Or we might be evolving again. As of right now, prime years for elite scoring is 23 through 26. Since we have a layout of what is the best age for scoring for running backs, I will discuss the top running backs for 2025 and explain if I think they will be in the top 12 or 7 in scoring. These 5 running backs were in the top 17 in 2024 and now considered past their prime. Now I want to start off with Derrick Henry, and I know on that little white image it says that Derrick Henry is going to be age 32 at the start of the season. That's actually a misprint. He's going to be 31 in 2025, but he is still the king. He is the outlier running back, one of the best we've seen in the past decade. He's a future Hall of Famer. The only reason he isn't drafted earlier is because we are trying to predict when he will have the drop-off. But Ravens were 3rd in run block win rate, and Henry always gets the volume with carries. He had the second most carries inside the 5-yard line with a 94.7 success rate. Number 1 in breakaway runs. He has a good .24 missed tackles force per attempt with an elite 3.5 yards after contact per attempt. The decline doesn't appear to be coming this year. He will have another top 7 finish. 81% of Henry's rushes occurred when the Ravens had the lead. He is currently going 15th in the second round, could be a steal and finish top 3. Alvin Karama will be 30 at the start of the season. I said last year his elite days are over, but then he posted 265 points. If he is active in the passing game, the potential for elite scoring is there. 68 receptions last year, that's second for running backs. Number 1 in target share, but still can't reach that 1,000-yard rushing season. His offensive line earned a .82 yards before contact, which is cautious, and ranked 15th in breakaway runs. I believe he will get another 70 reception season because he is their best receiver, but another year under 1,000 yards rushing. Also, I read this stat from Ron Stewart. 2022 through 2024, weeks 1 through 9, a total of 22 games. He has averaged 20.3 points per game. But weeks 10 and on, that's a total of 20 games, he averages only 13.6 points per game. He is getting broken down by the end of the year and ruins championships. I believe he will be involved in the passing game still, so he'll finish top 12, but not top 7. He is currently early 4th. I like him in the 5th. Joe Mixon heads into the season as 29 years old, 240 points, and was still running back 17. Always been a running back to rely on volume and receiving. In 2024, he was 13th in carries but missed 3 games. He still averaged 17 carries a game. Also averaged close to 3 receptions a game. But again, running metrics weren't the best. Once he got into space, he was good. Tied 11th in breakaway runs, but a 1.5 missed tackles forced per attempt is garbage. His offensive line is ranked last in the league and earned 0.58 yards before contact. Once again, it's garbage. Then they traded away their best offensive lineman, and then the Texans added Nick Chubb. He won't average the 17 carries a game anymore. Another stat from Ron Stewart, Joe Mixon the last 3 seasons, 2022 through 24, weeks 1 through 14, that's 37 games total. He averaged 17.6 points per game. But in weeks through 15 through 18, that's 8 games total, he only averages 11.9 points per game. He is also breaking down at the end of the year with the volume, and now he will be closer to 30. I'm saying he will be outside top 12 of 2025, but going in the 6th round, which is good. Now with James Conner, this dude just won't freaking die, man. He has only finished outside the top 15 in points per game twice since 2018. Every year he's being drafted like he can't perform anymore. But then every year he always does perform. But this year, he will be 30 years old. There's only been 2 running backs who scored 250 points at the age of 30, one of them being Derrick Henry. But technically, Conner was past his prime last year and still posted elite 3.30 yards after contact per attempt and elite 0.28 missed tackles forced per attempt. And his offensive line is 9th best in yards before contact at 1.0 yards. He is 5th in breakaway runs. His carries are a little low with 14th most in 2024, but 10th in receptions, and also ranked 6th in receiving yards. He has never played a full season, came close last year, but screwed fantasy managers over in the championship game. With a history of injuries and now 30 years old, I'm chicken shit to draft this guy. I don't believe he'll be top 12 in 2025. And now word out of training camp is that Trey Benson is going to have a larger role in this upcoming year. Conner's ADP is in the 5th, and that's a little too high for me. I want to take a second. If you're enjoying the information in this video, then please hit the subscribe, press the like. We have reached our goal of 2,000 subscribers, and now we have a new goal of 2,500 before the season starts. Anything will help this channel, and we appreciate all you owners out there. We also got this Discord. I'm the only one in there. I look like a psychopath. I need some friends. Please join it. I appreciate all you owners. These next 9 running backs I will discuss were in the top 12 of 2024 and are either staying or entering their prime seasons. I'll share if I believe they have a chance to repeat a top 12 or top 7 performance, starting with Saquon Barkley, who would be 28 years old. He finished 2024 with 355 points and was 1st in points per game at 22. 1st in carries as well. He set a record for the most 60-yard touchdown runs in a regular and postseason with 7. He had the most 40-yard and 20-yard runs last year. The Eagles' offensive line earns an elite 1.0 rushing yards before contact. He was great with a 3.17 yards after contact. There is nothing but regression set for Barkley, but his regression can still place him over 250 points because of the combination of his talent behind a great offensive line. I marked his projections as yellow because even though it's lower than the 2024 totals, the projections are still high enough to be a top running back. His ADP is 3. I like him at 2, so I love him at 3. Kyren Williams will be 25, considered to still be in his prime. He has back-to-back years of being ranked 1st in snap share and top 5 in opportunity share. Then in 2024, he was the 1st in red zone touches and tied 1st with 19 touches inside the 5-yard line. The Rams' offensive line earned a 1.09 rushing yards before contact last season, which is near top of the league. But his yards per carry dropped from 5.0 to 4.1 in 2024. And his rushing yards over expected per attempt dropped from 0.65 to 0, which means he earns exactly what the defense gives him, nothing more. Williams had a 0.15 missed tackles forced per attempt last season as well. It appears that Kyren Williams is another Joe Mixon type of runner. Isn't a great runner between the tackles, but gets all of the important volume in the red zone and at the goal line. Still consider in his prime, though, compared to Joe Mixon, Williams can be a top 12 if he keeps his volume. He is being drafted in the third. I would draft him late second. Bijan Robinson scored 341 at the age of 22, almost 100 points more than his rookie year. And this year, technically, he will enter his prime years. He will be 23 years old at the start of the season, behind an offensive line that was number one, and rushing yards before contact at 1.17. Then you add his 3.03 yards after contact and a 0.23 missed tackles forced per attempt, and was also third in receptions. And so now if you're like curious to see how he will play with Big Penix's energy as quarterback, Penix started weeks 16 through 18, and in those games, Robinson had 24, 24, and 31 points. The dude will put up elite numbers again with the potential of being RB1 at the end of the season. Currently, his ADP is second. I like him after Barkley, but I'm okay with him as number 2. Jahmyr Gibbs was RB1 with 362 points as a 22-year-old. Scored 120 points more than his rookie year. Made the jump from RB10 to RB1. And now he will be 23 years old, entering his prime years. He is the most explosive player on this list. Tied first in breakaway runs and breakaway rate. He is second in yards per touch and 8th in yards created, with an average of 0.25 missed tackles forced per attempt. Then his offensive line earned a 1.08 rushing yards before contact, but Gibbs is elite with yards after contact with an average of 3.34 yards. He is also 6th in receptions and 11th in carries. Unfortunately, what holds him back is David Montgomery. Gibbs had his highest carries of the season with Montgomery hurt, so he's pretty much tamed unless something happens to Montgomery, which is probably why he isn't RB1 straight up off the board. But entering his prime years, he is expected to raise his level of play more, which is dangerous to think about. I am a little afraid of Ben Johnson leaving and center Frank Ragnow retiring though, but he'll be without a doubt a top 12 running back. Elite scoring can be difficult with the red flags, but we know his potential. His potential can be RB1, is RB1. His ADP is 5th, and that's good. James Cook would be 25 at the start of the season, still in his prime years. Finished as RB8 last season. He scored 18 total touchdowns. He had a touchdown rate of 7.5%. That is 3.5% more than the league average, and only on 207 carries. His opportunity and snap share are both ranked outside top 25. He has 7 straight games to end the season where he played under 50% of the Bills' offensive snaps. He averaged 13 touches during that span. With only 207 carries on the season, it's the lowest number of carries for a running back on this list. And volume plays a big part in running back success, and Cook doesn't have it. He does have a good offensive line that earns 1.05 yards before contact, and his 3.26 yards after contact average is good as well. But his missed tackles forced per attempt is at 0.17, which isn't great, and 14th in red zone touches, which is last on this list, and Josh Allen is the goal line king for quarterbacks. He was also 33rd in receptions, so he was not involved in the passing game. Joe Brady likes to run the ball, and there's a good chance we see more of Ray Davis next year. He could get around 200 carries again, but his touchdowns will not total 18. There's a good possibility he doesn't make it inside top 12 running back next year, and his ADP of 35 is too high for me. Devon Achane will be 23 in 2025. At age 21, 17 points per game. At age 22, 17 points per game. And now he has entered his prime years. 2024 was almost considered a down year or back to reality year because in 2023 he averaged 7.8 yards per carry in 11 games. In 2024, it dropped to 4.5 yards per carry. It's lower than expected, but his O-line was garbage. Dolphins' O-line earned a 0.78 yards before contact, one of the worst in the NFL. He was 5th in stuffed runs, which means he was tackled behind the line of scrimmage, and his yards after contact was under 3 yards. Achane was in the top 10 in missed tackles forced per attempt in 2024, but dropped to 0.15, which isn't very good. Only 2 100-yard games compared to 4 100-yard games in 2023 with 6 fewer games played. The only thing that saved Achane was the receiving game. 2nd in targets, 1st in receptions and yards. With that said, with the O-line as bad as it is, he almost had 1,000 yards rushing. And if he keeps his target share, what are the chances that he has 1,000 yards receiving in 2025? And all this depends on Tua's health. Achane averaged 8.6 points per game in the 6 games without Tua. If Tua misses half the games, and Achane is risk of finishing outside top 12, but if Tua stays healthy, we can see Achane break football at age 23. His ADP is 14th, and that's perfect. Josh Jacobs will be 27 in the start of the season, in his prime, but on the older side. He scored 293 points last season as the vocal point in the Packers offense. His offensive line was 14th in rushing yards before contact at .92, but Jacobs played at an elite level. He had 3.45 yards after contact, which was 8th best, and a .22 missed tackles forced per attempt, and tied 11th in breakaway runs. He had the volume with 301 carries and was 5th in red zone touches. 19 attempts inside the 5, that was tied for first, and 16 total touchdowns. At age 27, in his prime, they're going to run it back. He will be elite again. His ADP is 20th. I think that's a good spot because I take him at the 19th pick. Up next is Chase Brown, and he's 25 years old, in the middle of his prime. Scored 255 points last season and was running back 10 and has a good chance of repeating. But he doesn't have the best running metrics except his yards after contact, which was over 3 yards per attempt, and his missed tackles forced per attempt is .20. But he did lack top 12 breakaways and was 16th in carries. Being the only running back for the Bengals last year, he did majority of the work in the red zone as he was ranked 11th in that category. But he was heavily used in the passing game, 6th in targets, 5th in receptions, but hopefully the Bengals offensive line will improve for being 30th in run block win rate in 2024. And if they do improve, I don't think it would be significantly better. Brown has no competition though on the Bengals after they let go of Zach Moss. I see a world with Chase Brown inside top 7. Brown being drafted 34th could be a steal. Last up is Jonathan Taylor, and Taylor was in his prime last year, and he will be in his prime again this year at age 26. Last year was a scare. He scored 244 points, but 93 of those points was scored in the final 3 weeks of the season. The Colts in general were disappointing last season. Their offensive line earned a .92 rushing yards before contact, and Taylor didn't help as much with a low 2.68 yards after contact and a horrible .11 missed tackles forced per attempt. But whenever he managed to break through the line, he was 4th in breakaway, so he still has the speed, but everything else looked bad, except his volume. He was number 1 in opportunity share, 5th in carries, 6th in red zone touches, and 7th in carries inside the 5. Last 5 games of the season, he averaged 28 carries a game. That is not normal for running backs at a time when they are supposed to be tired and hurt. The kid will be in his prime in 2025 with no competition. He will once again be topped in carries and opportunity share, top 12 running back without a doubt. He is going 19th overall. I would draft him at 20 and take Jacobs before him though. The last 3 running backs are in their prime and have a good chance to score 258 points in 2023 or at least 230 points. First up is Kenneth Walker, and he started last season as a 23-year-old, the start of his prime, and finished the season averaging 16 points per game. That is the most in his 3-year career. His missed tackles forced per attempt is .39, an elite level, a Master Chief level. Basically making someone miss 1 out of 3.5 carries, and it's something he's been consistent on because in 2023, he was .33 missed tackles forced per attempt. It's hard to believe he hasn't scored 200 points yet in his career. He has been plagued by injuries, and his offensive line is horrific, averaging a .66 rushing yards before contact last season. Seattle did kind of beef up the O-line this offseason and have a run-first OC. If he stays healthy, he has the potential to be top 7. I don't think I could grab him in the 3rd round where he's going, but if he stays healthy, he can be a league winner. The second running back is Breece Hall, who is 24 years old. He was one of the biggest busts last season. Now, head coach Aaron Glenn is speaking about a 3 running back committee. Hall's running last season was terrible, but was able to finish top 24 receiving. He was 4th in receptions and receiving yards. His missed tackles forced per attempt dropped to .17, but he was still great with a 3.06 yards after contact. His offensive line didn't help by earning a low .78 yards before contact. The big difference will be Justin Fields, who will keep the defense honest, which will create bigger running lanes for Hall. And since he is electric, and back-to-back seasons, he was 10th in breakaway runs, and you know they will just add in design plays in the receiving because I believe he'll keep that elite status as a pass catcher. There is a world where he ends up top 7 running back again. Get him if he falls in the 5th somehow. And the last running back I'm talking about in this episode is Bucky Irving. He will be 23 at the start of the season. Age 22, he scored 244 points. Only 23 running backs have scored over 230 points at the age of 22 since 2000. That is less than one a year. Now he'll be entering his prime, and his running metrics are elite. 4.03 yards after contact and 0.27 missed tackles forced per attempt, with the offensive line that earns a 1.01 yards before contact. He didn't even take over the starting role until like week 6. Now he'll be a full-time starter in a powerful offense. Only 14 running backs have scored 250 points since 2010 at age 23. I believe Bucky will be number 15. Drafting Bucky 24th at the end of the second round can be a steal. So we are chasing the running backs that have the volume and between 23 and 26 years of age for the most part for that elite scoring. Those running backs I will reach on. I believe this information will just leapfrog you over your league mates and into your league championship. Hopefully this fantasy football tip can do that for you. I believe it will. Another fantasy tip that can help you leapfrog over your league mates is the sleepers. We got to know who those sleepers are, right? Well, me and Tyler did a video this last Friday. It's going to be right here. Click it, and you'll see the top sleepers that you should be targeting in your draft. I'll talk to you in that video. Deuces.